If you want to learn how to do this very easy checkmate and another very easy one, stick around to today's lesson, The Chess Hacker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I'll teach you some very easy basic checkmates that you'll never forget, and it will help your game so much. Stick around, a lot of exciting stuff to come. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Mr. S with the Chess with Mr. S School, and this is 10-Minute Chess with Mr. S. I'm happy to have you all back. Today we're going to learn two very simple checkmates, one with a king and a queen versus a lonely king, and one with two major pieces against a king. Stick around, this lesson is super easy and we're going to go over some basic hacks that make these checkmates so simple and you'll never forget them and win every time when you're in these positions. Here we go. Alright, let's kick off today's lesson with the classic staircase checkmate, where you use two major pieces. In this case, we'll start off with a queen and a rook, but it can be just as easily done with two rooks. We'll do that in just a moment. And checkmate our opponent's king on one of the edges of the chessboard. What I mean by that are the rims of the board. The 8th rank A file, 1st rank H file. Now, all we need to do is push our opponent's king to one of the edges of the board. And all we need to do that is to cut off the king. So let's get started. All right, I'm going to start this checkmate off by doing the checkmate first and explaining the moves in just a second. Here, I'm going to start off by moving my queen to h3, and I don't care what my opponent does. My opponent makes a move. Now it's my turn, and I'm going to take my rook, go to g4, and again, I don't care what my opponent does. My opponent makes a move. Then I'm going to take my queen and again check my opponent, make him go upstairs, and again I don't care what he does, he makes a move. I'm going to take my rook now, go to g6, check him again, and I don't care what he does, my opponent makes a move. I'm going to take my queen now, go to h7, check him again, and I don't care what he does because he just has to make a move. Now it's my turn, and the last move is, you guessed it, rook g8, and I don't care what he does because he's in checkmate. Now let's take a quick second and figure out why we took those steps and what it does to force your opponent to get checkmated that easily. Stay tuned. So, how were we able to win so easily and so quickly? It's simple. We took our queen, then our rook. Right foot, left foot. Right foot, left foot. One rank, another rank. One rank, another rank. Until our opponent had nowhere else to go. And there's nothing your opponent can do about it. And that's what makes this checkmate so much fun. Let's take a quick look again and see what happened. Here we took our queen and we went to the 3rd rank, covering the entirety of the 3rd rank. So now our opponent has nowhere to go except for the 4th rank, or maybe he can go upstairs to the 5th rank. Now our opponent played to the 4th and said, I'm not leaving until you make me. So we made him. Get off the 4th rank. Go upstairs. Go on. Get out of here. So now black has no choice. He has to go upstairs because our queen covers the 3rd rank and our rook covers the 4th rank. And remember, your queen is defending the rook, so even if your opponent's king comes over and tries to attack you, you shouldn't be alarmed. There's nothing that they can do. So white plays, queen goes to h5, checking the king and forcing the king back upstairs. Now black pushes the king upstairs and you take your rook, go up to g6 and say check. Force the king now to the 7th rank, and then what's the next best move? You got it. Queen h7 check, force the king on the 8th rank, and finish off the game with one final checkmate. Now let's see what would happen if black decided not to go that way. Let's say, for example, we change our mind and we don't want to checkmate him on the 8th rank. We want to change the whole plan and now checkmate him on the A file for some crazy reason. It's still just this simple. I'm going to take my queen now and I'm going to go to f5. I now cover the F file, which means my opponent's king can never go on the F file, which means I'm pushing him to the left toward the A file. Whatever my opponent's king does, I don't care. I follow the same pattern. Rook goes over and says check. My opponent must go over again. Now he's on the D file. Now I take my queen, go on the D file, force the king over to the C file. Then I take my rook, force him off the C file, and make him go to the B file. You got it. And now the queen comes over, check again, king goes over, checkmate, and now I've learned staircase checkmate. And it was so simple. Now let's go over this exact same mate but with two rooks, because there's a slight difference here and it's not tricky at all, don't you worry. Stay tuned. Alright, now say you only have two rooks and you want to checkmate your opponent's king in the same way. Can you do it? Yes you can, and it's just as easy. Here we're going to start off by cutting off your opponent's king. That's the first rule always, cut him off. So we go to h3. We've cut off the king. Now a lot of students ask me, Mr. S, can I take my rook instead to g4 and say check? Sure you can. You're winning by so much. There's no wrong move. So in this case, you're giving your opponent a check, but you're letting your opponent decide. Your opponent can now go upstairs here or downstairs there. It doesn't matter which one your opponent chooses. If they go up, start pushing them up. If they go down, for example, they go downstairs to the third rank, then take your rook, go upstairs to the third rank, keep your rook on g4 here because it covers the fourth, and you'll force the king back downstairs again. And in the same way, you're making the king go downstairs, right foot, left foot, force him down, and then mate. And so because of this system, you'll never get it wrong. Let's take a look though and see what would happen if we were to checkmate back on our original 8th rank. So in this case, we play rook h3, cutting off the third rank. Now the black king can't go down, so he wants to stay on the 4th rank and delay getting checkmated. So he walks over to d4. Now we're not in any kind of danger, so we take our rook from g1 and we go to g4, delivering another check. We force the king upstairs. Go on, get out of here, go upstairs. The king says, but I want to go downstairs. Well, too bad, so sad. Our rook on h3 stops you, so you must go upstairs. So the king goes up. Now we take our rook from the h file, since the rook on g is covering the 4th. So we say check on h5. Now the king is getting a little tricky. He goes up to f6 and says, I'm waiting for you. If you go up to g6, I'll capture you. Okay, very good. So we won't go to g6. Instead, we take our rook and go to the other side of the world. Now our opponent comes chasing after our other rook, so take him and go to the other side of the world. Now keep a little distance between your two rooks so you can move your legs. So it's left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. If you take this rook and go all the way on top of the other one, the problem is they're kind of blocking each other, so you can't really force the steps one step at a time. It gets a little bit weird that way. So instead, go over and give yourself a little distance. Now whatever your opponent does, it doesn't matter. You've got one rook that's covering the 5th, another rook that's covering the 4th, so the two rooks are covering the king from going down, so we just need to push him up. The king comes chasing after us, but he's too far away. One foot, the other foot. And then your opponent is stuck in the back rank, and it's just that simple. You can fix this from any position. You can checkmate on the left, on the right, upstairs, downstairs. As long as you have two major pieces, it's that easy. Now, you won't believe me if I tell you this, but checkmating with just one queen and a king is even easier. So let's take a quick second and learn that checkmate, and we're done for the day. You're doing great. Stay tuned. All right, and now for the final lesson of today, let's take a quick look at the easiest checkmate of all time, the king and queen mate. Now, if you thought that staircase checkmate was easy, take a quick look at this and you'll see it's even easier. In this position, we've now cornered the black king. He can only dance between the b8 and a8 squares because we've taken away the remainder of the squares with our queen. Excellent. So now black king has nowhere to go except for back and forth and back and forth. Back and forth and back and forth. Back and forth and back and forth. Back and forth. Brrr. He can only go back and forth between b8 and a8, which means we can now walk our king very politely to the b6 square, or c6 square will also do, and then bring our queen to b7 and say checkmate. None of black's moves matter because black can only go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So here we move up to b3, he moves over, we move up, he moves over, we move up, he moves over, we move up, he moves over, and the final move, queen goes to b7, checkmate, game over. In your face, checkmate. Now, of course, you could checkmate in another way too. Here or here will both work too. For example, that's checkmate, that's also checkmate. Easy. The king cannot go upstairs because of our king, and the king cannot stay in the back rank because of the queen. But how did we get to this position in the first place? It's so easy. Take a look at this. Here, white to play and find a way to either push the black king to the A8 square, or the H8 square, or the A1 square, or the H1 square. The easiest way to do this is move your queen like a queen, obviously, but take it to a square around the black king that a knight could check it. So for example, F3 is a good square. E2 is another one. How about C6? Sure. Even E6, F5, any one of these squares, all of these squares could work because any one of these is one knight check away from the black king. So for this one, because it's so easy and it's right in front of us, let's pick F3. Boom! Our queen now goes to F3. From this moment on, play Simon Says. That means copy his moves. King goes up and to the right, I go up and to the right. King goes one to the left, I go one to the left. Up and to the left, I go up and to the left. Up and to the right, I go up and to the right. One to the left, I go one to the left. Up and to the left, I go up and to the left. One to the left, I go one to the... Wait. What? Wait a minute. Hang on a minute. What did I just do? Well, in this case, what I've done is I've trapped my opponent's king. Unfortunately, he can't go to B8, he can't go to A7, he can't go to B7, and that's my mistake because I've trapped him, I've cornered him. This is called stalemate, and it's not what you want to do. So, give the king just a little bit of elbow room and keep it in a way that your queen covers these squares, but gives the king just 2 squares to play around in. So the king can go to B8, back to A8, back to B8, back to A8. Now here, as I showed you earlier, walk your king upstairs. Don't go there, it'll be a stalemate. Walk your king to maybe B2, and then walk up, walk up, walk up, walk up. And no matter what your opponent does, it's a guaranteed checkmate. Now, a lot of students ask me, Mr. S, can I go to another square and maybe journey around the world and then come over there and checkmate? Sure you can, but it's kind of like playing with your food. You're almost about to win the game, just checkmate already. But if you want to, you could. So let's say you go over here to D2. Now the king goes back and forth, and your king is just dancing around the world. I'm going to explore the king side. I'm going to go down to H1. Now I'm going to go diagonally back upstairs, and finally when my king is on the C6 square this time, I'm going to say checkmate on B7 again. It's that simple. But there are a couple of very tiny things to take a look for, so let me show you those tiny little things as well. For example, if your king is back here, your opponent's king is on D4, and your queen is on H1. Say you go to the knight square. You found your very first knight square. Very good job. Now the king goes up and to the right. You go up and to the right. He goes up and to the right, you go up and to the right. He goes up and to the right, you go up and off the chessboard. Wait, up and off the chessboard? Well, of course I can't go up and off the chessboard, but I want to copy his move. Now in this case, I can't. So all I need to do is find a new knight check that's close to the king. Anyone would do. I could go up to E8, I could go to F5, either one will do. I like going the closest amount of moves toward my king. So for example, this is 2 moves away, this one's 3. Pick the one that's 2. I'm a little lazy. I want to go 2 squares away. So now I found my first knight check. Now, or my new knight check. Now, no matter what my opponent does, again, just copy the moves. He goes down and to the right, I go down and to the right. He goes 1 up, I go 1 up. And now be careful, because if your opponent's king has only 1 move to go, H8. Now if I go up to G6, this is going to be a draw again, because I'll take away these squares. So I keep my queen here, where my opponent's king can go up and down, and 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 up and down. And he goes like this, and it's easy for me. I walk my king up. Now again, you can dance around the world if you'd like, but just go to F6 if you want to finish the game quickly and not play with your food. And then go up to G7 and say mate. Very good. So now the king goes to D2, king goes to H7. King goes to E3, king goes to H8. King goes up to E4, king goes to H7. King goes to E5, king goes to H8. King goes to F6, king goes to H7, and another in-your-face checkmate. Very easy stuff. This is the easiest checkmate that sometimes people blunder and then end up getting a stalemate where they should have gotten a win. Or what's worse, and I've seen this before, is players do this and they just go back and forth, check, and the king gets checked, and the king gets checked, and the king gets checked, and there's no plan or strategy. It's just random checks, and they're hoping they can figure out along the way some way to checkmate the black king. Sometimes they do, and most times they don't. So as long as you remember the very basic idea, which is bring your queen to a knight check first, simple, simple, then play Simon Says. Simon Says up and to the right, I go up and to the right. One to the left, I go one to the left. And follow this pattern and make sure to give your opponent's king just a couple of moves to dance around in. Then you can walk your king up very easily and checkmate on the b7 square or any other such square. I really enjoyed teaching you this lesson today. I really hope you enjoyed watching it. Please do me a favor, and if you like the video, please like it, subscribe to it, share with your friends and family, and spread the awareness and the knowledge of chess. The better your competitors, the stronger you'll become. So share this knowledge. And thank you again for watching. I'll see you all again next week. Bye-bye, everybody.